Good afternoon, I'm Clandra Rose with Young Financial Witness TV and Pioneer Bank of Sugar Land, Texas. And I have my guest here, Mr. Jeffrey Lewis. He is the president and CEO of Lewis Limited in Germantown, Maryland, and also the consultant of Digit Games in Bethesda, Maryland. So, Mr. Lewis, how are you today?
I'm doing great. On this beautiful day in Washington, D.C. area. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's kind of hot.
Yeah.
My first question for you, tell me about your start or what's your initial plan after high school?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to run my own business. And so I went to college, actually started out being a psychology major, but then decided that it wasn't really for me, that I really liked running businesses. So I actually started my first business the first year I got out of college. And then have never looked back from there. I've got several businesses since then, but have actually been working in entrepreneurial for about 30 years.
Wow.
And have been having a ball doing it.
I see. I can tell. Can you tell me the name of the company that you started?
The first company I started was called United Cable Link. And back in the day, when computer systems were just getting on everybody's desks, we were wiring up those computer systems for a local area network so everybody could talk to each other. So we were doing all the wiring and the cabling for big businesses.
So about how long did you stay with them?
For about 2 years. 2 years.
And after that, where did that take you?
Well, then started up a consulting firm, and then the consulting firm was in technology and telecommunications, but then I decided to do a different twist. I actually love fashion and clothing, and I started up my own clothing line and clothing business for many years.
That's interesting.
And I kept all of my business names pretty much the same, but this one was called Lewis Custom Tailored Clothing. And the great thing about it was I had one small boutique store, but we had consultants go out to you to fit you up with a custom outfit. So when a businessman was having lunch, I would go to his office, I'd take all the measurements, I'd show him all the clothing, I'd show him all the swatches and the ties, and the next thing I know, I'd make the clothing for him, come back, and he's got a whole wardrobe for the time it took him just for sitting there having lunch.
Wow. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, I had a great business, loved it.
So you can sew.
Well, I can measure. I love myself. I can measure.
Who did the making of the clothes for you?
Well, that's a good question. I wanted to make sure that everything that I did was U.S. manufactured based. I did not want to send it overseas because I'm very pro-American. So we had 3 clothing manufacturers in the U.S. that did all my suits and everything else. My shirt manufacturers were in Texas, and I had tie manufacturers, New Jersey, and so I bring all that together, and so when I send out all the orders, they all come back, I check them in and everything, then I go to the client and suit them up.
Yeah. So what part of Texas?
Oh my goodness, this was, I think it was outside of the Houston area.
Okay.
Yeah. It was called Bond Clothier, who I had the tech shirts from.
So your position is a CEO of Lewis Limited. What was your journey to becoming CEO?
That's a very good question. At one point, I started up with another company with my partner. It was actually in the education space, and it was called Serious2Learn.com. So this was back when .coms were just starting out, and we started the company. And it was basically at that time we were videotaping conferences, lectures, symposiums of very luminary type people, and then we were pushing them out to the business market. So if you couldn't hear somebody like President Clinton or President Obama speak, we would film that, okay, and then we would then push it back into the market, for a business to take a look at. Now this was way before cell phones, way before all that stuff. It was just getting started. And then what happened was once you saw a person speak and he had written books, they would pop up and say, he's got 5 books you can purchase from our site. So then we would be able to purchase the books. So we were butting up against, at that time, Amazon, that was selling only books to consumers. We were doing books to business. And we did that for a while, sold it to a larger company, and then that company went public, and I decided to stay on as their marketing person with a publicly traded company, and I ran a publicly traded company for about 1.5 years. And then sold it to another publishing company, and then I went back into private consulting and started up Lewis Limited in the consulting business. But still stayed in education, and then we then decided to go after and do education for military. So we were training our troops. And it was very interesting because we developed a very, very high interactive program where we were doing cultural awareness for our troops. So basically what it does is that before they got touched down into like Afghanistan or Iraq, they had to know the culture of what Afghanistan and Iraq was. So we filmed all of this stuff with very, very high actor-based filming. So I had to hire actors, I had to write scripts, I had to get a whole film crew, and we had to film all the stuff about what we were doing in these scenarios. So once we finished the scenario, then when the soldier is looking at this, a dialogue box would pop up, and they would answer a question. If they answered the wrong question, we had to film the wrong answer, so they would see firsthand just what they did.
Yeah.
So they could experience in a computer first before making the mistake out in the field. And that was what we were putting together. So that's when we started up a subset, and we have a production company. We have Lewis Limited Productions that does a lot of film-based productions. We do commercials, we do music videos, we do all kinds of stuff now under the production company. So that's all how I spun off on different facets of the business.
That is amazing. Everything that you're saying is so interesting. I think I was to ask you, what sets you apart from, well, what do you think sets you apart from other people? Is it your creative mind, musician?
Very, very good question. Kind of a hybrid of both. I think that I've always been sort of a people person, and I love marketing and I love sales. I love that aspect of just talking to people. And so, so I think that's a gift that I was given that allowed me to get people energized and excited about certain things. And if they get energized, if they see me energized and excited, they may get energized and excited as well. And so that's what I think sort of sets us apart. Then Lewis Limited got back into marketing and management consulting as part of our business, and that's when we hooked up with Digit Games. And I saw that Digit Games has an unbelievable way they put game development together. And I said, this really could help us out in several facets of what I'm doing in business. Because I think business people need to know what Digit Games is all about and how we put it together.
So you have a partnership with Digit Games and Lewis Limited?
That is correct. That is correct. And so I decided, I came on as a consultant to them, and I'm really acting as their head of business development to help them transition not only from the educational success that they've had, we're going now into the corporate success and putting that together as well. So
I didn't get a chance to ask you, what college did you graduate from?
Well, good question. I first started out, which is a very interesting story I can tell you about perseverance and how we could do it. In my senior year of high school, here in Washington, D.C., I transferred from a private school to a public school. When I got to the public school, they told me that I only had enough credits to transfer to be in the 11th grade, not the 12th grade. And you should have seen me, I was devastated. I was devastated. So I said, no, you guys don't understand. I'm supposed to be a senior this year. You can't tell me I'm going to be back in the 11th grade. And so I said, fine, I give up. I went into the 11th grade for that semester. 3 weeks into being at the school, I went to my guidance counselor and I said, listen, here's the deal. I'm supposed to be a senior. What will it take for me to graduate on time? So she looked at me kind of crazy and said, all right, if you really want to do this, what you have to do? So she laid out a plan for me. The plan was this. I went to the high school in the morning, I went to a vocational school in the afternoon, and I went to high school at night. And I did it all in this one period of time, and I graduated on time with my class.
Big goal, very ambitious. That is amazing.
Because I tell you, because someone basically said, my mother mentioned this to me as well, she said, you have to believe in yourself, and you believe that you can do whatever you want to do in life. I was told that someone told me that I could not graduate on time. I made it a goal to prove them wrong.
That's what you have to do.
Exactly right. So to answer your question, I went there and I did my first year at West Virginia University in Morgantown, West Virginia, a big school. And I'll just extra boost in education. So what we did is I said, Bigot Games has putting together all these different types of training programs that we'd love to give away to free for people to play, and for the students to play. So Ivory Roberts got wind of this and said, wait a minute, I need to get a hold of this guy, Jeff Lewis. And so we then started talking, and he said, I not only need to have your games, I want to see how you can help us with possibly training some of our students how to build games. I said, that is a beautiful philosophy where we want to go. And so next thing you know, we talked for several months, but then he calls me up out of the blue and says, guess what? I'm coming to Washington, D.C. I said, and he said, Jeff, I got the one thing you told me, that if I'm ever in the area that I need to look you up. I said, I mean it and I meant it. And so he said, then I'm looking you up. And I said, great. So that's why you are here today, and that's why we're entertaining the kids.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us come here.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for the interview. You're a terrific interviewer, and I can't express enough how well you guys are doing, and how well this whole organization is done. You guys should be commended, and really, I'm very, very envious of the position that you're in, because you've got a whole new life ahead of you that's amazing, and I really think it's going to be very positive. So, thank you for the interview, and thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.